Flying after 60 gets so much better the moment you know what's available to you. Because right now, on planes leaving today, there's a short list of things you can quietly ask for. Free things. Things the crew is happy to give you. Things that make a real difference in how comfortable and taken care of you feel. From gate to landing, nobody tells you this list exists. But today, I'm giving you all 15. And for the ones that feel awkward to ask for, I've got the exact words that make it easy. Number 9 is the one flight attendants told me they wish more passengers would ask for. And number 1, that one keeps paying you back on every flight after this. Number 15, the pre-boarding quiet request. Here's something airlines will not put on a signboard. Most major carriers offer pre-boarding assistance to any passenger who needs a little extra time, and the definition is much looser than seniors realize. You don't need a wheelchair. You don't need a doctor's note. You don't need a visible disability. If getting down the jet bridge takes you a moment longer than it used to, you qualify. Picture this. Margaret, 68, a retired librarian from Sacramento, watched the priority line board before her for 3 years. Then a friend told her to simply walk up to the gate agent, smile, and say 8 words. She's boarded first on every flight since. Your defense: walk up to the gate agent before general boarding begins. Keep your tone calm and polite. Agents respond to warmth. Magic phrase: I'd appreciate a little extra time to board, if that's okay. That one sets the tone for your whole flight. The next one is about what happens the second you sit down. Number 14, the seat swap request at the gate. You booked a middle seat because it was cheaper. You're stuck with it, right? Not always. Gate agents have quiet authority to move passengers at their discretion in the final 20 minutes before boarding. They are actively looking for reasons to balance the cabin, keeping families together, distributing weight, filling exit rows with able-bodied passengers. A polite senior asking for a window or aisle is almost always accommodated if a seat is available. Robert, 71, a retired accountant from Atlanta, booked a middle seat on a 6-hour flight because the window was $80 more. He asked the gate agent softly if any aisle seats had opened up. 3 minutes later, he had a new boarding pass. Free. Your defense: arrive at the gate 45 minutes before boarding. Wait until most passengers have checked in. Ask quietly, not at the main counter. Use a side desk if possible. Magic phrase: if an aisle or window has opened up, I'd be grateful. This next one costs airlines almost nothing, which is exactly why they don't mention it. Number 13, the full can of soda. The cart rolls up. The flight attendant pours you a small plastic cup of ginger ale and moves on. Here's what they won't tell you unless you ask. They're allowed to give you the entire can. Airlines stock enough cans per flight to serve full cans to anyone who requests one. The pour a little default isn't a rule, it's a speed habit. Crews move faster when they pour into cups, so that's what they do. The moment a passenger asks politely for the whole can, they almost always hand it over without hesitation. Patricia, 70, a retired teacher from Portland, spent years sipping tiny half cups on cross-country flights. She tried asking for the full can once. The flight attendant smiled and said, "Of course." She's had a full can on every flight since. Your defense: ask when the cart first reaches your row, not after. Specify the drink and the size. May I have the full can, please? If the crew says yes once, note the airline. Most major carriers do this. This next one, most seniors don't know exists. Number 12, the unopened snack basket. Most seniors accept whatever snack lands on their tray. 1 pretzel bag. Done. Here's what the galley is quietly holding back. On most domestic flights, the snack basket that crews walk down the aisle is only about 1/3 of what's actually stocked on board. The rest sits in the galley, and flight attendants are allowed to offer extras to any passenger who asks, especially on longer flights or when the cabin isn't full. They won't announce it, but they'll almost always say yes. Helen, 74, a retired social worker from Minneapolis, mentioned offhand that the pretzels weren't quite enough on a 5-hour flight. The flight attendant returned 2 minutes later with 3 more snack packs and a smile. Your defense. Wait until the first service round is complete. Ask a flight attendant quietly as they pass, not at the call button. Be polite, not demanding. Warmth gets abundance. Magic phrase, if there's anything extra in the galley, I'd love something to hold me over. The next one, passengers almost never think to ask for. Number 11. The empty row move. The plane finishes boarding. You see an entire empty row 4 rows ahead. Here's something flight attendants will confirm the moment you ask. Once the door closes and the seatbelt sign is on, you are usually free to move to any empty row in your cabin class. Most seniors don't realize this because no announcement is ever made. The crew assumes anyone who wants to move will do so. Passengers assume moving isn't allowed. Both sides stay quiet, and the empty row sits wasted for the entire flight. Marcus, 68, a retired electrician from Cleveland, spent 4 hours crammed next to a stranger while an empty 3-seat row stretched out across the aisle. After landing, he asked the flight attendant if he could have moved. She looked puzzled and said, "Of course, anytime after takeoff." Your defense. Wait until the seatbelt sign turns off after cruising altitude. Quietly pick up your belongings and move to the empty row. Ask a flight attendant if you're unsure. They almost always say yes. Don't take exit rows or premium seats without asking first. This one turns a long flight into a short one. Number 10. The free Bulkhead upgrade. Bulkhead seats, the first row behind the divider, sell for $30 to $90 extra. You assumed they were premium only. Here's the part nobody tells you. When those seats don't sell, airlines often quietly release them to passengers who ask at the gate, especially senior travelers. The airline makes nothing from an empty bulkhead. They make a happy customer by giving it away. Susan, 70, a retired bank manager from Charlotte, asked a gate agent if any extra legroom seats were still available. The agent glanced at her screen, handed over a new boarding pass, and said, "Enjoy the legroom." Susan had been booking standard economy for 8 years. Your defense, check in at the gate counter 30 to 45 minutes before boarding. Ask specifically about bulkhead or extra legroom seats. Mention that any available seat would be appreciated. Don't demand a specific row. Magic phrase, if any extra legroom seats are still open, I'd love one. That's the first half, and this is where it gets really good. Quick question, how many of these have you never asked for? Most seniors say they've missed 8 or 9 of the first 7 alone. If this is helping you, hit subscribe. The second half has one perk almost every flight attendant wishes passengers would ask for. Number 9, the Galley Hot Tea. The beverage cart offered coffee, soda, and juice. You didn't see tea, you stayed quiet. Here's what every galley stocks that most seniors never request. Hot tea, herbal, black, green, sometimes chamomile, is kept in the galley on almost every flight over 2 hours. Crews don't push it on the cart because hot liquids are slower to pour and harder to serve. But ask nicely after the first service, and they'll almost always bring you a steaming cup with honey on the side. George, 73, a retired postal worker from Philadelphia, had been flying for 30 years without knowing this. On a red-eye to Dublin, he asked the flight attendant if any tea was available. She brought him chamomile and honey. He slept through the rest of the flight. Your defense. Ask after the main service round. Crews are less rushed. Specify the type if you have a preference. Do you have any chamomile? Ask for honey or lemon to go with it. Magic phrase? If the galley has any hot tea, I'd really appreciate a cup. This next one the flight crews want you to know about. Number 8. The medication assist. You take a pill mid-flight and need water. You press the call button hesitantly. Here's what the crew will tell you if you ask. Flight attendants are trained to help passengers with medication. That includes bringing water at any time, even when the seatbelt sign is on, offering a small snack to take pills with, and flagging any passenger on important medication to the lead crew member, so someone checks on them periodically. This is not a favor you're asking. It's part of the crew's job, and most of them genuinely prefer knowing which passengers are managing medications. It helps them do their work better. Mary, 71, a retired teacher from Denver, quietly mentioned to a flight attendant that she'd be taking blood pressure medication at a specific time. For the rest of the flight, every time the attendant passed, she glanced to check Mary was comfortable. Mary said it was the calmest long haul she'd ever taken. Your defense. Mention your medication timing during the first service round. Keep it brief and calm. No need to over-explain. Ask for water proactively instead of waiting for thirst. Magic phrase, I'll be taking medication around time. Could I trouble you for water then? The next one, almost nobody asks for. Number 7. The cabin temperature request. The cabin feels cold. You reach for a blanket. You suffer in silence. Here's something most passengers never realize is possible. Flight attendants can adjust cabin temperature zone by zone on most aircraft. The system isn't all or nothing. If a senior passenger quietly mentions their section feels too cold, the crew can nudge that zone up a few degrees within about 5 minutes. They do it all the time for business class. They'll do it for the economy too, if asked politely. James, 69, a retired architect from Phoenix, had been layering on jackets during every flight for a decade. He finally mentioned it to the flight attendant on a trip to Seattle. 10 minutes later, the cabin warmed noticeably. She winked as she walked by. Your defense. Wait until the cabin has stabilized. About 20 minutes after takeoff. Ask the flight attendant during a quiet moment, not during service. Be specific, but kind. Our row feels a bit cool. Would a small adjustment be possible? Don't ask repeatedly. Once is enough. This next perk isn't on any menu. Number 6. The galley leftover meal. On a flight with meal service, you ordered the chicken. You wish you'd gotten the pasta. Here's what the galley almost always has. After first class and business are served, there are typically 2 to 6 extra meals left over that will be discarded at the end of the flight. Flight attendants will often quietly offer these to economy passengers who ask, especially on longer flights, and especially to older travelers. Airlines don't advertise this because they sell upgraded meal packages, but the food is already paid for, already cooked, and about to be thrown away. Linda, 71, a retired librarian from Sacramento, mentioned late in a transatlantic flight that she hadn't eaten enough. The flight attendant returned 10 minutes later with a full first-class dessert tray. It was the best flan she'd ever had. Your defense. Ask only during the last 2 hours of a long flight. Mention it quietly to a flight attendant in the galley, not the aisle. Be gracious, not demanding. The answer may be no. Magic phrase, if there's anything extra from the forward galley, I'd love whatever you can spare. This next one is pure gold for anxious flyers. Number 5. The flight deck briefing. Turbulence hits. You grip the armrest. You have no idea how long it'll last. Here's what most passengers never think to ask. Flight attendants have direct communication with the cockpit throughout every flight. If a senior passenger is anxious and quietly asks what to expect, the attendant will often walk to the galley, call the flight deck, and come back with a real answer. Light chop for about 20 more minutes, or we're climbing to smoother air. It takes them 90 seconds, and it transforms the flight for anxious travelers. Patricia, 70, a retired teacher from Portland, hated turbulence her entire life. On a flight from Chicago, she mentioned softly to the flight attendant that the bumps were making her nervous. The attendant returned with a specific time window and a glass of water. Patricia was calm for the rest of the flight. Your defense. Ask during a calm moment, not during the worst of the bumps. Keep it conversational, not panicked. Be grateful for whatever answer comes back. Magic phrase, I get nervous during turbulence. Is there any sense of how long this section will last? This next one is about when you take off the plane. Number 4, the Souvenir Ask. You finish the flight. The crew collects trash. You walk off empty-handed. Here's what many senior travelers never realize is available. Most airlines allow flight attendants to give passengers the little extras: unopened headsets, amenity kit items, deck of playing cards, airline branded pen, sometimes even a first-class menu or wine list as a keepsake. These items get discarded or recycled at the end of the flight. Asking at the right moment means they go home with you instead. Robert, 71, a retired accountant from Atlanta, asked the flight attendant near the end of an international flight if he could keep his unopened amenity kit. She smiled and handed him two. Your defense. Ask in the last 30 minutes of the flight during the quiet descent. Specify what you'd like. Crews appreciate a clear, small ask. Take only what's offered, never more. Magic phrase, I'd love to keep something small as a memento. Anything you can spare? This next one makes the whole arrival easier. Number 3, the connection assist. You have a tight connection. You start to panic. Here's what most passengers don't know flight attendants can do. Most airlines allow crew to radio ahead to the next gate when a senior passenger is at risk of missing a connection. The ground crew can hold the door for a few minutes or arrange for a cart to meet you at the arrival gate. This isn't a guarantee, but it almost never happens unless the passenger speaks up. Mary, 71, a retired teacher from Denver, told the flight attendant during descent that her connection was 25 minutes after landing. By the time the plane pulled up, a cart was waiting with her name. She made her flight with 3 minutes to spare. Your defense. Mention your connection time during the descent phase. Have your next flight number ready. Ask calmly. Panic triggers less help, not more. Magic phrase, my connection is tight. Is there any way to have someone meet me at the arrival gate? And this next one is what pros do on every single flight. Number 2, the deplaning delay request. The plane lands. Everyone jumps up. You're still sitting, waiting for the aisle to clear. Here's the trick seasoned travelers use every time. Flight attendants will happily let older passengers stay seated until the rush clears, and some airlines even allow them to hold the gate crew briefly so you don't feel hurried. You get off the plane calmly, you avoid the crush in the jet bridge, and you often meet a wheelchair or cart at the gate if you asked for one in advance. Helen, 74, a retired social worker from Minneapolis, used to fight the deplaning crowd and arrive at baggage claim exhausted. A friend told her about this trick. Now she waits 5 minutes in her seat, walks off last, and has her bag in hand before the crowd even catches up. Your defense. Mention during descent that you'd like to deplane last. Stay seated calmly as the cabin empties. A flight attendant will usually come check on you when the aisle clears. Tip the skycap or assistance person if one meets you at the gate. And now the one almost nobody over 60 uses, the best kept secret in the cabin. Number 1, the flight attendant card. You had a wonderful flight. The crew was kind. You want to say thank you. Here's what almost no passenger knows. Every major airline has a customer commendation program where passengers can write a short note praising a specific flight attendant. And those notes go directly into the crew member's personnel file. It takes 2 minutes. It costs nothing. And flight attendants remember passengers who do it for years. Here's the part seniors miss. The next time you fly that same airline, that same crew member may be on your flight. They remember names, faces, and the people who took the time to write in. The service you receive on that next flight is transformed. Free upgrades, extra attention, little favors all flight long. It's the single most powerful perk on this list because it pays you back on every future trip. James, 69, a retired architect from Phoenix, started writing commendations after every kind flight. 6 months later, he boarded a flight, and the lead flight attendant said, "I remember you. Thank you for that note." He spent the next 4 hours being treated like a regular. Your defense. Get the flight attendant's name during the flight. It's on their badge. Note the flight number and date. Visit the airline's website and find compliments or customer commendation. Write 3 to 4 sentences. Specific and warm, not generic. Magic phrase, I'd love your name. I'm going to write a note about you. But here's the part most seniors don't know about. The real perks start before the plane even arrives, at the airport itself. There's one specific counter at almost every major airport that offers free services to travelers over 60, and it's almost never on the terminal map. That's exactly what I'm sharing next. It's on the screen right now. See you there.